You failed again. But I'll pass the message to Bones. Soon he will be reviewing. Hey! Well, now it's time for another review. Where the hell is Bones? Bones? Is he sleeping or something? Let's see. Yeah, just as I thought. He's asleep. Must I do everything myself? Yes, Kruger. He's asleep.
What happened? What happened?
Well, good morning, Bones. Or is it good afternoon?
You could have just warned me.
Yeah, I had to wake you up. Because it's this time we have to do a review.
Oh yeah, I realize that.
Damn, looks like you haven't been sleeping for days.
'Cause I haven't slept in weeks, ever since that day. All there is just Freddy.
Relax, Bones.
Well, if you excuse me, now I have to go get a drink of water, because now my mouth is completely dried.
Now let's get this party started.
Well, now I'm awake. Hey guys, this is P.M.R.Bonez88's. And today for my next horror slasher movie review, which is Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. Not really.
What is with all these movies saying it's the final nightmare, which apparently it isn't? But obviously Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, was supposed to be an epic conclusion for Freddy.
So this film came out in the fall of 1991, and eventually the original title was going to be called A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 6, Freddy's Dead, or A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 6, The Final Nightmare. But which New Line Cinema decided to, you know what, why don't we use both of these subtitles and just call it Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. Which that worked. Unfortunately, the slogan did say they saved the best for last. Not really. And once again, I don't really think it's the best Nightmare series. But forever, for this 6th installment, it made some good, pretty decent money, and it hit up to about almost 13 million at the opening weekend. Close, but not really. And Robert Englund returning to play as Freddy Krueger for the 6th time, and this time a new director named Rachel Taylor, or Taylor. It's really hard to pronounce, but she was there for some of the Elm Street series, and Robert Shea did return to produce this film. And also the stars that were in Freddy's Dead were Lisa Zane, Yaphet Kotto, Leslie Dean, Ricky Dean Logan, Breckin Mirror, and Sean Green Blott. They even had some couple cameo stars, Roseanne, Tom Arnold, Alice Cooper, and Johnny Depp, which he was also in the first Nightmare on Elm Street series. For this film, Freddy's Dead, it turned out to be a goof-off comedy horror spoof film. For Freddy, he's using all these puns so much, and he's taking it way too far this time. When I first saw Freddy's Dead, I felt this was targeting for kids, which was true, and I felt like it was a PG horror kiddie film. Technically, I just found it more hilarious than the other Elm Street series that I used to watch. I didn't really find it too scary, and Freddy wasn't even that scary anymore. He was technically to be a Looney Tune character.
Which, of course, it just bombed, but it made good, decent money. What really bombed this movie were the puns, the loss of elemental of horror, and technically it felt like it was a childish horror film.
Despite it with the punses and the kills, that point on, Freddy said the Final Nightmare became nothing but a sick joke. I felt disappointed when I saw this film. And kind of think of it, I felt like this was a PG horror film. I only wish it was a rated R hardcore horror film. But with the first 3 Nightmare movies, they were definitely true horror film, and they were both true rated R movies. But the point on with all the sequels, it started to go downhill, and it felt like it was starting to become PG-13 and to PG. If they lower the ratings, they want to just less violence and scratch off the swear words. So this movie begins 10 years from now, and so the year was 1999, and Freddy returned and wiped out all the children and the teenagers from Springwood. So Springwood was becoming nothing but a ghost town, except it had no kids. And all they had were adults, and they were being all crazy and loopy, but except for one survivor.
Wait a sec. Whatever happened to Alice and her son Jacob?
Oh yeah, have you heard? They both moved out of Springwood.
Well, it looks like Alice was smart.
Yep, that's right. So for the one survivor, John, he survived, but unfortunately he was having a nightmare in which he woke up from his plane falling nightmare thing. He woke up and realized that he was falling? Still with his house? Okay, what is this? They ripped this off from Wizard of Oz? What else next? Freddy dressing up as the Wicked Witch of the West?
I'll get you, my pretty, and your little soul too.
Oh, God. I had to say it. Me and my big mouth. That was his great opening. Dressing up as the wickedy old witch of the West. Now this says it all.
Oh, God. That's how you introduced to Freddy? That is just ridiculous. What the hell's wrong with you, dude?
So by there where his house finally fell down to the ground, and John just finally got out of the house and started running, and by there he started to fall into a big steep hill, and he kept on falling for about a minute or 2.
Well, that is one long-ass hill.
I was gonna say that.
Okay, any day now.
Alright. I'm going to take a break. Let me know when he's done falling.
Can we speed up the pace, please? Thank you.
He finally stopped falling. When did he stop?
Since, 2.5 minutes ago.
So I was right. 2 minutes.
Well, it's approximately almost 3 minutes, but you know what I mean.
Alright, whatever. So he did stop falling. That's what matters, right? So John just stopped in the middle of the road up until Freddy just popped into nowhere driving a bus and hit John. Seriously, what is with Freddy acting like a goofball? Can he take it a little serious? So at that point on, Freddy just stopped and pushes John from one dimension to another. Was he in another dimension with Freddy in it? So John wakes up and started walking, and unfortunately he suffered amnesia. The cops took him in to the youth center, and that's where he meets the doctor, which was played by Elisa Zane. He's trying to figure out who he was and where did he come from, but unfortunately he still can't remember. The last thing he just remembered that he was the last survivor. I guess Freddy literally knocked him out big time, and I mean his memories. So John tries to stay awake, so he doesn't sleep anymore, so in case Freddy ever tries to come and get him. But at that point on, he already passed down, and he was already dreaming. But maybe it was not just a dream, but he was trying to remember something. Maybe trying to remember who he really was. At that point on, there was a mysterious little girl. I think she was trying to help him, or maybe she was just playing with him. Maybe Freddy was disguising as the little girl. He tried to remember, but unfortunately it failed, so he woke up and realized he pushed the cop right out the window. So what Maggie did, she had the idea of taking him back to Springwood, so that way if he could remember anything. So by there, Maggie and John trying to find some clues of who he really was. So Maggie and John trying to look for some clues and figure out who he really was. By that point on, meet up with other people, including with the teacher who was a little sick and loopy. But they figured out to find one clue that it turns out Freddy did had a kid. Well, at first we all thought Freddy had a son, because it said K. Kruger. And like John said, it could be either Kevin or Kyle, or Carter with a K. No, Carter starts with a C. I don't think Carter would start with a K. But meanwhile, the three, Carlos, Spencer, and Tracy, trying to figure out how to get back at the youth center, but somehow Freddy alter reality, make them trap and stay in Springwood, and wouldn't even go back, so they were stuck. So at this point on, they just gave up and they found an empty house. But however, this house was different. It somehow just alternated and then it transformed back into the 1428 Elm Street house. That was pretty new and quite interesting. But literally, they've kind of broken the reality of Dream and the real world. And like Elm Street 2, they've kind of ignored the rules. Sort of. Not a lot. So Carlos was the first one to fall asleep and have this dream that he was back in his own city and his mom used to abuse him and make him clean out his ears that caused him to make him deaf. But at that point we all know that was Freddy in disguise, and what he used, that big Q-tip, like pushed it right through from one ear to another. That could have just scrambled his brain.
Q-tip right through one ear to the other? Caused major brain damage.
And by there where he just sliced his ear and that caused him to make him even more deaf. So Carlos couldn't hear nothing. No scream, no noise, no people talking, nada.
Well, I guess you won't be able to hear it anymore.
I got a little secret too.
What are you talking about?
I can even make you mute.
You think you're gonna mute me? I can talk wherever the fuck I want. It's a free country, boy!
Oh yeah? What? Did you say something, Dark Shadow? I can't hear you. You gotta speak up. Yeah, you can't call my phone. I have it on silence. Oh, this is gonna be fun. You forgot to say a magic word. Okay.
Thank you!
Now that's funny. So at that point on, Freddy was torturing Carlos and gave him back his hearing thing. But at that point on, he made some quite few adjustments to that hearing aid. Gave him like super hearing, so everything was all loud and was really hurting his ears real bad. And when Freddy used the chalkboard, this was quite what you call a nail on the chalkboard.
No.
Ow. So by there he kept on using his claws on the chalkboard up until his head just exploded. So Carlos just disappeared from existence. So Tracy was trying to go look for him while Spencer was just just getting high and just fell asleep dreaming about who knows what. So Freddy took Spencer into a weird looking colorful rainbow sequence happening up until he was in a video game, and somehow that they wanted to bring the rights for Nintendo, but Nintendo said no to them. And at that point on, at first they were afraid that Nintendo was going to sue them, but they just went for it anyways. And so far, no suing, no nothing. And originally that Freddy was going to use the Power Glove, the Nintendo Power Glove, which I never heard it back then. But when I saw like some advertisement back in the 80s, like in the late 80s and early 90s, that the Power Glove was very popular. So they kind of got away with it, but they technically had their own Power Glove that Freddy used.
Hey Bones, you like playing video games, right?
Well, of course, I love video games.
I think it's time to play one of my games. It's called Hide in the Dark.
Whoa, what's going on? Dude, did you turn off the lights?
What's the matter, Bones? You're not afraid of the dark, are ya?
Well, can you turn it back on?
Alright, I'll turn on the lights. That was just a warm-up.
Now everything's black and white. What's happening?
Oh, haven't you heard? We're just getting started.
Hey, what are you doing?
Time to go into virtual reality game. It's called Dark Shadows Survival Guide. Time to begin.
Whoa, where am I? Change of wardrobe? Huh. Where the heck am I? What is this place?
You're in my world now, Bonesy boy. Let's see. What's this button do?
Whoa! Whoa! Hey, what's going on?
Oh, it controls the legs.
Come on! Hey, what are you doing? Stop it! This isn't funny anymore! Come on, stop it! What do you think you're doing? Ah! Alright, that wasn't funny.
Have a nice trip, Bones.
You really think you're funny, aren't you?
Now, let's see. Oh, slap it. Why are you hitting yourself? Stop hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself. Run around like crazy. So, time to go to the woods.
Okay, I really don't like this woods. I really don't, man. I'm hearing voices.
Run. Run like hell. Run, 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 run.
Okay. You had your fun. Now take me back.
Okay, Bones. I'll take you back.
Thank you. Sheesh. Can't deal with this.
We'll be back, folks. Take a short break.
During the game scene where Spencer was just like fighting off his dad, and at that point on, it was starting to become a comedy film. This was not a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. This was just Freddy in a Saturday night comical show. The horror elements were gone, the darker elements were gone, even the gory and the kills were even gone. So right after when Freddy just finished off Spencer and he fell into the big dark hole, which that's where Freddy gets his soul from. And at that point on where Maggie woke up Tracy, but John was still trapped in the dream world with Freddy. John tries to fight him, and that point on he just escaped from that falling house, and luckily he used a parachute just to be safe. But up until Freddy just came down and explained of what's really going on. John thought that Freddy was the father, but unfortunately it wasn't, because it turned out to be that Freddy had a daughter, not a son. So at that point on, he just finished off John by using the spikes. Yep, Freddy's officially a Looney Tune comedy character. Remember what I said that Freddy and Chucky should be on a Saturday Night Live show? Well, I was right. So John tries to explain to Maggie, but when he was trying to finish those last words, it was too late. So anyhow, Freddy just goes into Maggie's head, just random. I don't know if he was trying to possess her, or was he trying to mess up with her mind too? I had no idea what was that all about. When they got back to the youth center, everyone totally forgot about Carlos, Spencer, and John, so technically, they never exist.
Erasing people from existence. Even when Freddy kills them, he just erased them. If he did it in this film, why couldn't he done it through the rest of the Elm Street series?
So Maggie tries to figure out who she really was and trying to find some answers, but by there she just fell asleep going onto a dream world, or just go back to memory lane when she was a little girl and playing with her dad, and unfortunately, surprisingly, that the dad was Freddy. So Krueger finds Maggie, but her real name was Catherine Krueger.
So finally, Maggie remembers who she really is. Freddy's kid, and her real name was Catherine.
Freddy now goes to the shelter to kill more kids, and the best line ever was,
Every town has an Elm Street.
it is true, every town does have an Elm Street.
Oh really? Every town has an Elm Street, huh? Is there an Elm Street around your town, Bones?
I don't want to jinx it.
Why not?
Because if I tell you, you will take me somewhere that has an Elm Street, and Freddy will come after me. So, don't even go there.
Oh, you think I won't do it? Watch what happens after the review.
Now, Freddy goes after Tracy, but disguising as her father. But she didn't fall for his trick because he knew what her father was like back then. So technically she beat the shit out of him. And worse comes to worse, so-called father being all deformed. So since Tracy didn't fall for Freddy's tricks, she decided to try to kick his ass, but that didn't work out. So in order to get away from him was to burn her wrist and to wake up from it. I don't know if that's possible. I mean, I have a couple weird dreams, but I don't really find something to burn me or cut myself to wake up and realize, hey, I just cut myself. But who knows? It's a nightmare, well, Freddy movie. I'll say that. So Freddy failed to attempt to kill Tracy, so he went after the doc. The doc used the badges beating the shit out of him multiple times as well. At that point, wait. Did he really kill him? Is Freddy really dead? I wanted to see if it was the legit, if he was really dead. Nope, he's not dead. Because he is indestructible. Then he explained about the dream people, the ones that gave him this job, and gave him some immortality. So in other words, he cannot die. He is forever. So by the time Freddy tried to kill the doc, he woke up, but the doc figured out a way how to get Freddy into the real world and to finish him off for good. The doc gave Maggie some 3D glasses, which that kind of really make no sense. But I guess when she fell asleep and she puts on those 3D glasses, I think in the last 10 minutes, this movie was supposed to be in 3D.
Son of a bitch!
You know, when I tried wearing these 3D glasses, even if I was at home, I thought maybe it's the time I should wear my 3D glasses. It didn't work. What if they bring back Freddy's Dead in real IMAX in 3D? Like bring it into theaters and make it in real 3D, so that way we can see Freddy and all the things that are just popping out in our eyes. That would be a good idea. So by there, Maggie just been going from past lanes to another, just seeing his memories when he was a kid, been made fun of by other children. And when he was a teenager, he was just cutting himself and he was living with his drunk, abusive father, which was played by Alice Cooper. Then we go up to the next memory where Freddy meets up these dream people that gave him powers and become immortality. And the last but not least, to explain the truth of what happened to her mother, that realizing that Freddy killed her mother, and she was not happy about it. So at that point on, she grabs Freddy and taking her to the real world. And what happened when she woke up? Somehow he wasn't there, he just disappeared. So Maggie, Tracy, and the dog go after him, do a little Freddy hunting. So where Maggie sees Freddy as human and good and innocent, she believes him at first. At that point on, when he still had that glove on him, that was it. So both Freddy and Maggie go on to a major huge fight. It was kind of ridiculous. First they were fighting off his glove, and then Maggie was throwing some ninja stars at him. She was going all Naruto shit on him. And then she took his glove, come towards at him, and then just whack him, stab him right in the stomach. And at the end, she just hits him with a pipe bomb, and then he blows up. That was the most weakest Freddy's death ever. Out of all the deaths that I've seen, all the Nightmare series, the best ones ever were part 1, where Nancy just erased him, just disappeared, saying he was nothing but shit. And then in part 3, where his bones were getting buried and he was getting hit by holy water, and then he just disappeared. And then in the Dream Master, where Alice used a mirror to get rid of the evil, and all the souls, the children, were just tearing him apart. Those were good deaths. But killing Freddy with a pipe bomb? That was weak, and they could have done a little better than that. So that was Freddy's Dead, the so-called final nightmare. So, after done talking about this film, Freddy's Dead was, oh god, I don't know how to say this. This was a complete mess. I mean, they tried their best. They could have done a little better. They could have made this a little darker. Unlike with the other Elm Street series, they were really darker, and the horror elements they used, they were really incredible. But for Freddy's Dead and calling it the final nightmare, I don't think that was really good. They could have done it better. But for a couple years later, when they did Wes Craven's New Nightmare, that was the final nightmare. But for Freddy's Dead, it was too much of a goof off. And Freddy was definitely become kind of a cartoon character.
Freddy's Dead, the final nightmare, which eventually it wasn't the final nightmare. You could have done better. New Line could have just adjust the alternate scenes or the extended scenes just to make it better. Or why not just try to alternate the scene, like an extended cut or something? Maybe try to make it more darker, like what they did to Superman 2. If Richard Donner made the extended cut of Superman 2, the Richard Donner's cut, why couldn't they do the same for Freddy's Dead? I mean, honestly, it could have been better.
Nothing really surprised me, but except for Leslie Dean playing as Tracy and kicking ass, that was great. I only seen her in one other film besides Freddy's Dead, which was 976 Evil, and Robert Englund directed this film as well. And she's also in a rock band called Scary Cherry. I've listened to a couple of her songs, and they're really good, and especially one of my favorites, which was the re-song from the Runaways, Cherry Bomb. You should definitely check it out. I think the only good thing about this movie was the end of the credits, where we see all the Nightmare movies. So it was like a montage, and the music that was played by Iggy Pop, playing the song called Why Was I Born? That was the only thing that was good about it. Due to all the production and how they try to make it to be the finale, didn't really work out. But the kills were okay. I'll just say that much. They were okay. They were just modern and not really interesting. And Freddy's puns, they were, like I said, he took it way too far this time. So just to rate this film, for Freddy's Dead, I'm not gonna say it. I'm just gonna say Freddy's Dead. For Freddy's Dead, I'll have to give it a 3 out of 10, equals to a 30%. So I have to give this an F. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry, folks, but it failed. Sure, it pretty made good, decent money, but for this film, it was just too much of a mess. But I only watch it just to make me laugh, not to make me scared. Most likely, I think that's why it was in the lower rating, and I think it's technically sort of my least favorite. But still, with the punses and the goofs off and the elemental horror were lost. I wish they could have done it better, but it was too bad. Even for Rachel Taylor, and when she did the interview saying if there was a way to bring Freddy back, she kept saying no, but guess again. But either way, again, it's my least favorite, but it was really much of a comedy spoof horror film, and didn't feel like it was rated R at all. I felt like it was a PG horror film. But I do have this movie on Blu-ray and DVD. And this is P.M.R.Bonez88's signing off for saying is... Peace!
What do you know? I beat my high score.
Well, I did a little some research, and this town does have an Elm Street. Probably 3 or 4. But I'm gonna take him to the one Elm Street that he'll never forget. You all ready, folks? Time for the big traveling. I dare look up.
Oh, great. Ugh. Now where am I? What the hell he took me? Wait a sec. Why does this place look so familiar? Why is everything so dark? And... wait a minute. Oh, God. No effing way. He took me on Elm Street? Dark Shadow!
Well, every town has an Elm Street.